You recently tweeted about Elon Musk in support of him, suggesting that we should curb defense spending. What's the play here? This is someone who you've criticized previously. Do you see a potential partner in him?
In some areas, yes. In many areas, no. I mean, I think many of the things he did during this campaign were really ugly. On the other hand, he's a very smart guy. If somebody on the other side has a good idea, sure, we'll work with him.
With 46 days to go until the second Trump term begins, Senator Bernie Sanders has become one of the most outspoken senators in his willingness to work with Republicans on certain issues. Business Insider was able to sit down with Sanders yesterday as he explained which areas he's willing to extend an olive branch to the right in the upcoming administration on. First, the most obvious area is working with DOGE and Elon Musk to cut back on the government's massive defense spending bills. Take a look.
He's a very smart guy. And if he goes out and says that the Pentagon has not been able to go through an independent audit, which is true for the last 7 years, that there's enormous waste in the Pentagon, he's absolutely right. Of course there is. I brought forth amendments over the years to cut Pentagon spending by 10%, which would still leave us by far with the strongest military in the world. So we need a strong military, but we don't need all the kind of the waste and the profiteering and the fraud that exists in the Pentagon right now.
Sanders had previously announced his support for DOGE around this issue, specifically over the weekend when he tweeted, "Elon Musk is right. The Pentagon, with a budget of $886 billion, just failed its 7th audit in a row. It's lost track of billions. Last year, only 13 senators voted against the military-industrial complex and a defense budget full of waste and fraud. That must change." And while Sanders is independent, a multitude of other Democratic lawmakers have jumped on this bandwagon. As you previously mentioned, Representative Ro Khanna is on board, and now you also have Democratic representatives like Jared Moskowitz joining the DOGE caucus to participate in these conversations. Take a look.
Look, I think it's the time for staying in safe spaces is over. We should be able to go in spaces and have that conversation. I joined with a specific focus because I've been working on for years trying to get FEMA out of the Department of Homeland Security. I think the Department of Homeland Security was a great idea. I think it's still necessary. But I think over the last 20 years, it's become too big. And so I think FEMA needs to be a direct report to the White House like it was when it was originally created. I think there's evidence that Secret Service probably should come out of DHS and also be a direct report to the White House. So that's where these conversations are going to have, and so I'm willing to go there and have it. I'm sure there's going to be things that Elon and Vivek are going to come up with that I'm vehemently going to disagree on, and I will make sure that I'm a loud voice voting against that stuff. But we got to go to where the conversations are happening. The idea that we're not going to go to these places and just pretend the conversations aren't happening is not a way to conduct business here.
Cenk, I know you've talked about this online. You've ruffled some feathers about this type of approach to DOGE. What do you think about what Bernie's saying here? Do you think it's even worth him showing support?
Yeah, 100%. It's absolutely the right thing to do. And this shows not just that Bernie's right on the policies and not just that he's honest. And those are the two things he's best known for, certainly on the left. But I think if you look at the polling, based on where he is on the policies, a huge majority of American people agree. But it shows a third side of Bernie here. He's smart and he's strategic. So he's not just doing this on DOGE, but he's also doing it on other issues like credit card companies. We're gonna get to that in a little bit. But Trump promised that he would have capped the interest rates at 10%. That's a great promise. So instead of just generically saying, hey, I'd like to work with them, or going down to Mar-a-Lago just to, whatever Scarborough did down in Mar-a-Lago. Going to Mar-a-Lago is not a problem as long as you're not kissing his ass. But Scarborough, I don't know what they did. But whatever it was, he came back with nothing, right? And what Bernie's doing is saying, no, let's focus on their promises that we agree with, and let's do those first. It's impossible for me to agree more. That's so obviously correct. I can't understand how anyone would be against that.
Yeah. So I think what people are missing is you have to at least try. And it's easy to just be cynical and just sit out if you're not connected to it. I get, and I also understand why people would just reject the notion altogether. Bernie's a pragmatist to some extent. He's going to at least try, and he, I think, knows he's likely going to be unsuccessful. Story of Bernie Sanders' career, like that is not new for him, but he's going to fight for what he believes in because that's who he is. But I don't think this is going to happen. I don't think we'll see any cuts to the Pentagon. I feel pretty confident in that. That said, I don't think it's crazy to at least try to entertain them or the idea a little bit. Having friends who work in or in some cases run foreign policy organizations, they often find they are collaborating with groups on the right on foreign policy. There is a Koch brothers sponsored organization that is also trying to cut defense spending because they see it as an issue of government waste. Just saying, at least try to have those conversations, and we certainly shouldn't knock people like Bernie Sanders, who's at least going to push for it. It's the right thing to do. He knows he's going to lose. Again, story of Bernie Sanders' career.
Yeah.
But,
sure.
Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
I'm going to jump in there. I don't know that he's going to lose. So number one, if you say, oh, well, I don't think Mitch McConnell is going to try to cut the Pentagon, I would say to you, of course, obviously. The establishment Republicans have no interest in that. Generally, in the past, Trump has not shown much of an interest in that. But again, I could be wrong. But what I am sensing overwhelmingly from the right-wing shows that I go on, from social media, from every interaction I have with right-wing populists, is that they're not lying. They actually want to cut the Pentagon. Now, you could have the right-wing populists and the left-wing populists agree and have the government ignore us because of the donors, and that's what happens every time. But the very fact that his own base wants him to cut the Pentagon, makes it more likely because Trump is actually way better than the Democrats at least being responsive to his base. That doesn't mean responsive to the overall voters. It means to his base. But in this case, his base, I believe, is actually largely on our side. And so I don't think it's nearly as hopeless as others think. And look, who doesn't want credit card rates, at 10%? It's a different issue. Again, we're going to get into it in a second. So the overwhelming majority of the American people agree to some of the promises that Trump and Elon, et cetera, have made. And the fact that he's now highlighting it, so even if they don't do it, it helps us hold them accountable, right? So it's smart either way. And Jordan, I'm curious because I haven't seen this. When I mentioned cutting the Pentagon in the beginning and Elon responded, et cetera, sure, of course, everyone that's like a left-wing host and et cetera was against me, but that's Tuesday, right? And they'd be against me if I, helped a little lady cross the street. They're like, oh, it's pretty right-wing of you, right? Anyway, but I haven't seen them be angry at Bernie. Is anyone crazy enough to be angry at Bernie for saying, let's do the things that we've always been trying to do?
Not that I've seen. I also try to avoid online drama. I think it's worth trying, and I don't knock you for trying. I think it's worth fighting for. It's the right thing to do. And again, if we're unsuccessful, yeah, that's just life. That's what we've always experienced. But here's the thing. I break from you on your optimism. I don't think that they're going to cut. Even if people say they support it, I think it will not be cut whatsoever. And how about we put a wager on it? I know you're a fellow gambling man. $100 in 2028, or even before. I mean, you could win the first budget cycle. If I do not think there will be a dollar cut I do not think the military budget the Pentagon budget will go down. It'll continue to go up. You think it's going to go down?
Okay, so Jordan, the Pentagon budget almost never goes down. So the odds should be like 20-1, right? Whether a Democrat's in office, Trump is in office, Republicans are in office, it always goes up. So in order to eat odds a little bit to make this, and I don't need 20-1. And remember, I'm not saying it's definitely going to happen. I'm saying I've got a little bit of hope that it's going to happen. But I'll go out on a limb as long as you give me this one. Either the Pentagon budget gets cut, or they actually pass the rule that I proposed when Elon asked, and that Don Jr. said that they liked, which is prevent the generals from working for defense contractors after they retire, because that would eliminate a giant conflict of interest, which would be a significant win for our side, for the American people, et cetera. So if you give me either one of those, then I'll take it straight up, no odds, $100.
It's tough because they're already, they're talking about replacing the generals with people who are loyal to Trump. That's definitely closer to even odds for sure. Sure, throw that in, but that's the thing. You've got that. You win if he does that, but I'm more concerned. I think that's a positive step. Of course, I don't want to discount that. A positive step, but the Pentagon budget overall is just. That's what I think. That's where the meat is, and they won't touch it. So sure, $100. Here's the thing. If you're right, I'll give you $100. If I'm right, I'll take 10. We'll do 10 to 1. $10, but I want it framed, and it just says Jordan was right on the paper that's framed on.
I'd probably rather just give you the 100, but okay, I like it. It's clever and it's more dramatic. So it's Jenkian in that sense. So if there is no conflict of interest rule for the generals and there's not a single dollar cut from the Pentagon, you said what, through 2028?
To the end of his term. Yeah.
At any point, right? Then yes, $10 framed with Jordan's right. You know why I don't mind that, Jordan? Because I don't mind saying the other person was right if they're right.
Yeah. No, yeah. And then if you win, I hope you win. Like, it'd be better for all of us if you win this bet. I don't trust that anybody in Trump's orbit will actually follow through on this. That's all I'm saying.
All right, let's see what happens. But I love Bernie for trying, and especially on the other issues too, because again, he's focusing on the things that almost all Americans agree with.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely.
Hey, thanks for watching that video. We really appreciate it, guys. And we appreciate it if you become members, because that allows us to be independent, honest, progressive, all the things that you don't get from corporate media. And all of that is because of you guys. Hit the join button below and become one of us. Become a young Turk.